You've probably heard about India's main drug law, the NDPS Act, and you've probably heard that it's notoriously tough. But what you might not know is that there's a powerful rule tucked inside it, a kind of safety switch for your rights. We're talking about Section 50. And trust me, it's a huge deal. Getting this one rule wrong can literally cause an entire case to just fall apart. So let's get right into what this is all about. All right, so let's start with a big question. Why is the NDPS Act considered so severe? I mean, what gives it that fearsome reputation? Well, it's not just about the long prison sentences, though those are definitely part of it. The real reason goes much deeper. It completely flips a basic principle of justice on its head. And that's why knowing your rights becomes, absolutely essential. And that brings us to this key idea, the reverse burden. Now, normally, in any criminal case, you've heard the phrase, right? Innocent until proven guilty. The government has to prove you did it. But the NDPS Act, it can turn that completely upside down. Once the prosecution shows a few basic things, the tables turn. Suddenly, the pressure is on the accused person to prove they are innocent. It's a massive shift. And you can see why having clear procedural rules in a situation like that isn't just nice to have, it's everything. Okay, so with those high stakes in mind, let's talk about the landmark Supreme Court case that really defined this all-important safeguard. We're diving in to State of Punjab versus Baldev Singh. So back in 1999, the Supreme Court handed down this game-changing decision. And this wasn't just some minor legal tweak. No, this ruling basically drew a bright, bold line in the sand. It carved out a fundamental right for any person facing a personal search under this act. It was the court saying, this far and no further. And what the court said was just crystal clear. They didn't leave any room for doubt. Following the rules in Section 50 is not, I repeat, not optional. It's not a nice to do or a guideline. It is absolutely 100% mandatory. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So what is this mandatory right we're talking about? It's actually pretty straightforward. It's the right to have a choice about who searches you. Before an officer can conduct a personal search, they have to tell you, hey, you have a legal right to have this search done in front of a gazetted officer, that's a high-ranking government official, or a magistrate. It's your choice. All right, so we know what the right is, but as with anything in law, the devil is in the details. How this actually plays out in the real world is where it gets really interesting, because it's not just what they tell you, it's how they tell you. And this is a really, really important point. It's not enough for an officer to just mumble a question like, you want a gazetted officer? Nope, that doesn't fly. The Supreme Court was very clear on this. The right has to be communicated properly, fairly, so that the person actually understands what they're being offered. It has to be a real, informed choice, not just some procedural checkbox they tick off. Okay, so this right sounds pretty powerful, right? Which naturally leads to the next question. Does this apply to every single search that happens under the drug law? And the answer, to put it simply, is no. It's very specific. And here's the clarification you absolutely need to remember. This whole Section 50 safeguard applies only to a personal search. We're talking about a search of you, your body, your person. It does not apply to searching your stuff, like a bag, a suitcase, your car, or your house. That's a completely different procedure. So person, yes. Property, no. That distinction is critical. So we've got the rule, we've got its limits. Now for the big one. Why does this matter so much? What's the ultimate consequence if law enforcement messes this up? Let's lay it out. What actually happens if an officer gets this wrong? If they don't tell you about your rights or they don't do it properly? What are the real stakes here? And here's the answer. It's a legal bombshell. Non-compliance vitiates the conviction. That's a legal term that basically means it poisons the entire case from the root. The search is deemed illegal. Any evidence found during that search gets thrown out. And just like that, the entire case can completely collapse. It doesn't matter what they found. If the procedure was wrong, the case is gone. So you can imagine, for a defense lawyer, this is huge. This is often the first thing they'll look at. They're going to put that official record under a microscope. What were the exact words the officer used? Was the right really explained clearly? Did the person actually understand what they were agreeing to? Or were they just confused or intimidated? Getting the right answers to these questions can be the key that unlocks the entire case and leads to an acquittal. And this all leaves us with a really fascinating question, doesn't it? In our search for justice, how important is a procedural rule? It might seem like a small detail, but what Section 50 really shows us is that sometimes the procedure is the safeguard. It's the rule that ensures there's a balance between the power of the state and the rights of an individual. Something to think about, for sure.